The boardroom went quiet when Kambili walked in. Not the respectful kind of quiet. The shocked kind. The kind where 12 men in expensive chairs suddenly realized the woman they'd spent 6 months dismissing now held the keys to everything they'd built. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. Park Minjun pulled out her chair at the head of the table. The chair that used to belong to her father. The chair they'd kept empty for 20 years because no one had been brave enough to claim it. Kambili sat down. "Gentlemen," she said in perfect Korean, her voice steady as glass. "Let's talk about the future of this organization." "My organization." One of the older men, Kim Sang-woo, leaned forward. His face was red. "You can't just walk in here and—" "I already did." Kambili slid a folder across the table. "That's the documentation proving Han Doo-shik was my father." The second folder shows every debt, every contract, every sealed account he left behind. The third shows how I've spent the last 6 months collecting what's mine. The room exploded in whispers. She waited. Let them panic. Let them understand. "The empire you thought you were running?" Kambili said softly. "You were renting it. The lease just expired. That was 3 hours ago." Now, standing alone in her new office, looking out over Seoul's night skyline, Kambili touched the seal ring on her finger. The one her mother had given her when she was 12, telling her it was just a family heirloom. It wasn't. It was proof. It was power. It was everything. But 6 months ago, she didn't know any of that. 6 months ago, she was just a woman in love with the wrong man. If you want to see how a woman goes from heartbroken to untouchable, from dismissed to dangerous, stay with me. This story doesn't go where you think it does. And trust me, you'll want to see every move she makes. 6 months earlier, Kambili stood in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to calm her breathing. The dress was perfect. Deep wine red, elegant, nothing too flashy. She'd learned, in her 4 years with Jin-ho, exactly how to dress for these events. Beautiful enough to be noticed, modest enough not to threaten the older women, elegant enough that the whispers about her stayed quiet. Mostly quiet. Her phone buzzed. Jin-ho's driver was downstairs. She grabbed her clutch, took one last breath, and headed out. The party was at some private venue in Cheongdam-dong. Kambili had been to a dozen events like this. Same people, same false smiles, same careful dance of power and politeness. She'd gotten good at it. Good at standing next to Jin-ho while men talked business in Korean, pretending they didn't know she understood every word. Good at ignoring the stares, the whispers about the foreign woman Jin-ho kept bringing around. She loved him. That made it bearable. Or so she'd thought. The car pulled up. Kambili stepped out and immediately felt the weight of eyes on her. She was used to it. In 4 years in Seoul, she'd never stopped being the only black woman in most rooms. Tonight was no different. She walked into the venue. Chandeliers hung from the ceiling, not the crystal kind, the old brass kind that spoke of family money. Round tables filled the space, each one surrounded by people who mattered in ways the public would never know about. Jin-ho was near the front, talking to someone she didn't recognize. He looked up, saw her, and his expression shifted. Just for a second. Something she couldn't name. He didn't come to her. That was the first warning. Kambili made her way through the room, smiling politely at familiar faces. Most didn't smile back. A few nodded. That was about as warm as it got. She found a spot near the bar, ordered sparkling water, and waited. "You came alone?" Kambili turned. It was Director Choi's wife, a woman who'd always been coolly polite to her. Tonight, there was something else in her expression. Pity, maybe. "I'm waiting for Jin-ho," Kambili said. Mrs. Choi's smile thinned. "Of course." She walked away. Second warning. The room began to settle. People found their seats. Kambili looked around for Jin-ho, trying to catch his eye, trying to figure out where she was supposed to sit. He was at the front table. The important one. He still hadn't looked her way. Then he stood up, walked to the small stage area, took the microphone. "Thank you all for coming tonight," Jin-ho said. His voice was smooth, confident. The voice she'd fallen asleep listening to on the phone countless nights. "This is a special evening for me. There's someone I want you all to meet." Kambili's heart lifted. Finally, after 4 years of being introduced as his associate, his friend, his colleague, maybe tonight was different. Maybe tonight he was finally going to. A side door opened. A woman walked out. Korean, petite, beautiful in that specific way Seoul valued. Pregnant. Very clearly pregnant. Kambili's heart stopped. "This is Oh Yuna," Jin-ho said, and his voice was warm in a way Kambili hadn't heard in months. My wife. We married last month. She's carrying our first child. The room erupted in applause. Kambili's hand tightened around her glass. Every eye in the room that wasn't on Jin-ho and Yuna was on her. They wanted to see her break. She could feel it. The weight of their curiosity, their judgment, their satisfaction. The foreign woman who'd thought she belonged. The outsider who'd gotten exactly what she deserved. Kambili set her glass down carefully. Her hands didn't shake. She wouldn't let them. She looked at Jin-ho. He was looking at Yuna, his hand on her back, playing the role of devoted husband for an audience that ate it up. He didn't look at Kambili once. She stood up. The movement caught attention, heads turning. Let them watch. Let them see exactly how composed she could be. She picked up her clutch, straightened her shoulders, and walked toward the exit. Her heels clicked against the marble floor. Each step steady, each step controlled. Behind her, the whispers started. I told you she never belonged. Foreign women always think they can. Embarrassing, really, to show her face here. She understood every word. Every single one. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside, pressed the button for the lobby, and waited until the doors closed. Only then did she close her eyes. Only then did she let herself feel the knife in her chest. The doors opened. Lobby. Bright lights. The doorman nodded at her politely. She nodded back. Outside, the air was cold. Seoul, in November. She should call a car. She should go home. She should cry, probably. Scream. Something. Instead, she pulled out her phone and scrolled through her contacts. Found the number she'd saved 2 years ago and never called. Park Min-jun. She'd met him at a business dinner Jin-ho had brought her to. Min-jun had been quiet, watchful. At the end of the night, he'd handed her his card and said, in English, if you ever need anything your boyfriend can't help with, call me. She thought it was strange. Kept the number anyway. Now, standing outside the venue where her life had just imploded, she dialed. He answered on the second ring. I saw the announcement, Min-jun said. No greeting. No pretense. Kambili's throat was tight. How did you? I've been waiting for him to do something like this. I'm sorry it happened. Why do you sound like you expected it? A pause. Where are you? Outside the venue. Stay there. I'm 10 minutes away. Why would you? Because you're Han Doo-shik's daughter, Min-jun said quietly. And it's time you knew that. The line went dead. Kambili stared at her phone. Han Doo-shik. She knew that name. Not well. Her mother had mentioned him exactly once, when Kambili was 16 and asking about her father. Someone I loved a long time ago. He died before you could meet him. That was all she'd ever gotten. Headlights cut through the dark. A black sedan pulled up. The back door opened. Min-jun was in his 50s, graying at the temples, with the kind of face that gave nothing away. He gestured to the seat beside him. Get in, he said. We need to talk somewhere private. Kambili should have been scared. Should have questioned this. But something in his voice, something in the way he'd said her father's name, made her trust him. She got in the car. They drove in silence for 20 minutes. Not toward her apartment. Toward a part of Seoul she didn't know well. Older buildings. Quieter streets. The car stopped in front of a small office building. Min-jun led her inside. Up 3 flights of stairs, into an office that looked frozen in time. Old furniture. Older files. He closed the door behind them. Sit, he said, not unkindly. Kambili sat. Min-jun pulled a file from a locked drawer. Set it on the desk between them. Opened it. The first thing she saw was a photograph. A man. Korean. Older than her mother had been when Kambili was born, but not by much. Serious eyes. Strong jaw. Eyes she'd seen in the mirror her entire life. Han Doo-shik, Min-jun said. Your father. Kambili's hands were shaking now. She pressed them against her lap. My mother said he died. He did. 26 years ago. 2 years after he sent you and your mother away to keep you safe. Safe from what? From the people who killed him. Min-jun's voice was flat. Factual. Your father ran the most powerful underground organization in Seoul. He built it from nothing, made it untouchable. But he made enemies. When you were born, he knew they'd use you against him. So he hid you. Sent your mother to Nigeria, then to America. Gave you new documents. Erased the connection. Kambili's head was spinning. That's impossible. My mother was an economist. We lived a normal life. Your mother was an economist. That part is true. But your father made sure you'd never want for anything. Every scholarship you got. He set those up before he died. Every door that opened for you. He built the hinges. Why are you telling me this? Min-jun leaned forward. Because your father left everything to you. Every business, every account, every piece of his empire. It's been waiting for you. I've been managing it, keeping it safe, waiting for the day you'd be ready to claim it. I didn't even know he existed. I know, but now you do. Min-jun slid another document across the desk. That's the proof. Legal documents. DNA records your father stored. Financial statements. Everything you need to prove you're his heir. Kambili stared at the papers. Her name was on them. Her real name. Kambili Okafor Han. She'd never seen the Han before. Why now, she asked. Why tonight? Because tonight, you have a choice. Min-jun's eyes were steady on hers. You can walk away. Go back to your life. Grieve the relationship that just ended. Move on. Or you can take what's yours. Every piece of the empire your father built. Every connection, every asset, every carefully hidden piece of power he left behind. Kambili looked at the photograph of her father, at the eyes that looked like hers. Jin-ho, she said slowly. Does he know about any of this? No, no one does. Your father's enemies think his line ended with him. Jin-ho thinks you're just the foreign girlfriend he's disposing of. The word stung. Disposing. Like she was nothing. Like 4 years meant nothing. If I take this, Kambili said, what happens? Min-jun smiled. It was the first time she'd seen any emotion on his face. Then you become the most dangerous person in Seoul, he said. And no one will see you coming. Kambili sat in that office for 3 hours. Min-jun gave her everything. Files on her father's organization. Lists of people who owed him debts. Sealed bank accounts in 3 countries. Property deeds. Business contracts. A network so vast and so carefully hidden that even the people running parts of it didn't know who really owned them. Jin-ho's organization, Min-jun said, spreading out a chart, is built on loans your father gave his predecessor 15 years ago. Loans that were never repaid. Technically, Jin-ho owes you more money than he's worth. Kambili's head was pounding. This is insane. It's the truth. My mother, Kambili said. She knows all this. She knows your father loved you both. She knows he died protecting you. The details, the empire, I don't think she wanted to know. She wanted you to have a normal life. Normal? Kambili laughed. It came out bitter. I've spent 4 years being stared at, whispered about, treated like I'm temporary. Tonight I found out I was. You were never temporary, Min-jun said quietly. You just didn't know your own worth yet. Kambili looked at him. Why are you helping me? Because your father saved my life. Because I made him a promise the day he sent you away that if you ever came back to Seoul, I'd make sure you knew the truth. He paused. And because I've watched you for 4 years, Kambili. Watched how you handled yourself in that world. You're smarter than all of them. You just didn't have the weapons yet. And now you have an entire arsenal. The sun was starting to rise when Kambili finally left Min-jun's office. She took copies of everything. Documents, photographs, account numbers. Proof of a life she'd never known existed. She went back to her apartment. The one Jin-ho had helped her find 3 years ago. The one she'd thought of as temporary until they found something together. She looked around. At the life she'd built. The compromise she'd made. Then she opened her laptop and started reading. Every file. Every document. Every detail of her father's empire. By noon, she'd made her first decision. By evening, she'd made her first call. By midnight, she'd accessed her first sealed account. The amount in it made her sit down. $50 million. US dollars. Just sitting there. Waiting. And that was one account. There were 12 more. Kambili stared at the screen. At the number that represented more money than she'd ever imagined having. At the power that came with it. She thought about Jin-ho. About the look on his face when he'd introduced Yuna. About the 4 years she'd spent making herself smaller so he could feel bigger. She thought about her father. A man she'd never met. A man who'd loved her enough to build her an empire and then die to keep her safe. She thought about the room tonight. All those eyes. All that judgment. She picked up her phone and texted Min-jun. I'm in. Tell me what to do first. The response came immediately. Come to the office tomorrow. We start with the foundation. By the time we're done, Jin-ho won't even know what hit him. Kambili set down her phone. She didn't cry. Not anymore. She had work to do. The next morning, Kambili woke up different. Not healed. Not over it. But focused. She dressed carefully. Black pants, white blouse, hair pulled back. Professional. Invisible. Exactly how she needed to look. Minjun's office was in a building she would have walked past 100 times without noticing. That was the point, she realized. Hidden in plain sight. He was waiting with coffee and more files. First thing, he said, you need to understand the structure. Your father didn't build a traditional organization. He built a web. Legitimate businesses on the surface, each one connected to 3 others. No single person sees the whole picture except you and me. What kind of businesses? Import-export companies, real estate holdings, tech investments, restaurants, even a few hospitals. Hospitals. Your father believed in covering every angle. People need to eat, they need housing, they need medical care. He made sure he had a hand in all of it. Minjun pulled out a specific folder. But the real power is in the debt. He showed her a list. Names she recognized. People in Jin-ho's circle. People at the party last night. Every single one of them owes your father money, Minjun said. Loans taken out decades ago. Some of them don't even remember. But the paperwork is ironclad. And we can call those in? We can. But we won't. Not yet. Why not? Because that's loud. That's obvious. Right now, you have the advantage of being invisible. The woman Jin-ho discarded. The outsider no one takes seriously. We use that. Kambili leaned back. How? Minjun smiled. We move quietly. Small pieces. You start attending business events again. Not with Jin-ho. On your own. As a financial consultant, which you actually are. You make connections. You join boards. You become part of the landscape. While doing what exactly? While I start activating your father's assets. Quietly transferring control. Updating paperwork. Making it official that you're the owner. By the time anyone notices, you'll already own half the city. It sounded impossible. It sounded perfect. How long will this take? Kambili asked. If we're careful? 6 months. Maybe less if we get lucky. And Jin-ho won't know until it's too late. Kambili thought about that. About 6 months of pretending to be broken while actually building an empire. When do we start? We already have. The first move happened 3 days later. Kambili walked into a business networking event at the Shilla Hotel. The same kind of event she used to attend with Jin-ho. Except this time, she was alone. And this time, she had a plan. She'd spent 72 hours studying. Learning every name on her father's lists. Memorizing which companies connected to which. Understanding the web Minjun had described. Tonight's target was simple. Lee Jae-sung. He ran an import business that supplied half of Seoul's luxury market. He also owed her father $12 million from a loan taken in 2006. He had no idea. Kambili spotted him near the bar. Older man, confident, surrounded by younger executives trying to impress him. She waited. Patience was part of the strategy. 20 minutes later, Lee stepped away from his group. Headed toward the restroom hallway. Kambili moved. She timed it perfectly. Bumped into him just as he rounded the corner. Oh, I'm so sorry, she said in Korean. Lee looked at her. His expression shifted, recognition without warmth. You're Jin-ho's friend. I saw you at the party. Friend. Not girlfriend. Not partner. Friend. Kambili smiled. I was. We're not in touch anymore. Oh. Lee's face showed the polite discomfort of someone who didn't want to be involved in drama. I'm sorry to hear that. Don't be. I'm doing well. Actually, I've started consulting independently. Financial restructuring, international partnerships. I have some clients in West Africa now. The markets there are growing faster than people realize. She watched his eyes sharpen. Business interest replacing social discomfort. West Africa? Lee said. Which countries? Nigeria mostly. Ghana. Some connections in Kenya. A lot of Korean companies want access to those markets, but don't know how to navigate them. That was true. It was also bait. That's interesting, Lee said slowly. My business has been looking to expand. The Chinese markets are getting complicated. I'd imagine so. Kambili pulled out a business card. Plain, professional, her name and a phone number. Nothing fancy. If you ever want to talk about alternatives, I'm happy to consult. First conversation is free. Lee took the card. Studied it. Kambili Okafor. That's Nigerian. Yes. You speak Korean very well. I've been here for years. I learned. She smiled again. I understand more than people think. Something in her tone made him pause. Made him look at her differently. I'll call you, he said. I look forward to it. She walked away. Calm. Controlled. In the taxi home, she texted Minjun, hook set with Lee. His response came fast. Good. When he calls, offer him the Ghana connection. Real deal, good terms. Build trust first. And then we mention his debt. Casually. Like you just discovered it going through old family paperwork. See how he reacts. Kambili stared out the window at Seoul's lights. This city had never felt like home. Always felt like somewhere she was visiting. Somewhere she didn't quite fit. Maybe that was about to change. Lee called 4 days later. They met at a coffee shop in Gangnam. Neutral territory. He brought his finance director, a sharp woman in her 40s who clearly ran the numbers for his operation. Kambili had prepared a proposal. Real contacts in Lagos. A legitimate pathway into Nigerian import markets. She'd spent 2 days on the phone with her mother's old colleagues, building actual connections. The proposal was good. Better than good. Lee's finance director saw it immediately. This could work. The margins here are substantial. They are, Kambili agreed. But you need someone who understands both sides. Korean business culture and West African. That's not easy to find. And you can do this? Lee asked. I can. I've been bridging cultures my whole life. There was weight in how she said it. Lee heard it. They talked for 2 hours. By the end, Lee wanted to move forward. I'll have my legal team draw up a consulting contract, he said. Perfect. Kambili gathered her papers. Then, as if just remembering, oh, one odd thing. I was going through some of my father's old documents. He passed away before I was old enough to know him. But apparently he was in business here in Seoul for a while. Lee's expression didn't change. Oh, Han Doo-shik. Did you ever know him? The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Lee's face went carefully blank. His finance director suddenly found her phone very interesting. I knew of him, Lee said slowly. I found some paperwork. Old loans, contracts, that kind of thing. I'm trying to figure out what's still active and what's not. Your company's name came up, actually. Lee's jaw tightened. In what context? A loan from 2006. 12 million. I can't tell if it was repaid or not. The records are messy. Do you know anything about that? Silence. Lee and his finance director exchanged a look. I need to check our records, Lee said finally. Of course. No rush. I'm just trying to sort out his estate properly. Kambili stood, smiled warmly. Let me know what you find. And send over that consulting contract when it's ready. She left them sitting there. Outside, 3 blocks away, she finally let herself breathe. Her phone rang. Min-jun. How did it go? He knows about the debt. He's scared. Good. Let him sit with that fear for a few days. Then we make our offer. Which is, forgive half the debt in exchange for preferred partnership terms on all his import routes. He gets financial relief. You get access to his entire distribution network. Kambili smiled. You're good at this. Your father taught me. Now go home and rest. Tomorrow we start on the next one. There were 8 more people on the first-tier list. 8 people who owed her father money. 8 entry points into Seoul's business world. Kambili worked through them one by one over the next 6 weeks. Some were easy. They saw the opportunity to clear old debts and jumped at it. Some were hard. They tried to deny the loans existed until Min-jun produced paperwork that made their lawyers go pale. All of them underestimated her. She was foreign. She was young. She was a woman. In their minds, she was playing at business, probably didn't understand what she was doing. That made it easier. By mid-December, Kambili had consulting contracts with 6 major companies. She sat on 2 advisory boards. She'd been invited to 3 exclusive business dinners. She was becoming visible in exactly the right circles. And Jin-ho had no idea. She hadn't seen him since the party. Hadn't called. Hadn't texted. She'd deleted his number, blocked him on everything, and moved on. Or so it looked. In reality, she thought about him every day. About the 4 years. About the version of herself who'd believed in a future that was never real. It hurt. Still. Probably would for a while. But pain was fuel now. The second phase started in January. Real estate, Min-jun said, spreading maps across his desk. Your father owned property all over Seoul. Residential buildings, commercial spaces, land that's tripled in value. Most of it is managed by holding companies. We're going to start consolidating. What does that mean? It means we transfer ownership from the holding companies directly to you. Make it public record. Let people start connecting the dots. Won't that expose us? It'll expose that Han Doo-shik's heir is active. But no one knows you're his daughter yet. They'll waste time investigating the holding companies, trying to figure out who's behind them. By the time they trace it to you, we'll already control too much for them to stop. Kambili felt her stomach flip. This is really happening. This is really happening. The property transfers took 3 weeks. Kambili watched her name appear on deed after deed. Buildings she'd walked past. Neighborhoods she knew. All of it hers. The worth of it was staggering. Hundreds of millions. Just in real estate. Your father was smart, Min-jun said. He never kept his wealth in one place. He spread it across assets, currencies, countries. Even if someone had come after him, they couldn't have taken everything. But they took him. Min-jun's face darkened. Yes, they did. Who? Does it matter now? It might. He was quiet for a long moment. Most of them are dead. The ones who aren't are old, out of power. Your father's generation fought different wars. And Jin-ho's generation thinks they're smarter, thinks they've evolved beyond the old ways. They're wrong. Kambili thought about that. About Jin-ho's confidence. His certainty that he was untouchable. When will he notice? She asked. That something's happening. Soon, Min-jun said. Maybe very soon. He was right. The call came on a Tuesday in late January. Kambili was in a meeting when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. It called again. And again. She excused herself, stepped into the hallway, answered. Hello. Kambili. Jin-ho's voice hit her like cold water. She hadn't heard it in 2 months. Hadn't expected to feel anything. She felt everything. How did you get this number? She asked. That's what you want to lead with. His voice was tight. Stressed. We need to talk. We really don't. Something's happening. With my accounts. My partnerships. Someone's moving against me, and I can't figure out who. Kambili's heart was racing. She kept her voice level. And you're calling me because? Because you're smart. Because you know finance. Because I need someone I can trust to look at something. The audacity. The absolute audacity. You're married, Kambili said quietly. Call your wife. Yuna doesn't understand business. This is serious, Kambili. Someone's dismantling my organization piece by piece, and I don't know how they're doing it. She should have hung up. Should have enjoyed his panic and said nothing. Instead, something reckless rose in her chest. What makes you think it's one person? She asked. Pause. What? You said someone. What if it's not someone? What if it's just bad luck? Bad timing. Things fall apart, Jin-ho. You know that. This isn't random. This is targeted. Then hire an investigator. I'm not your person anymore. Kambili. She hung up. Her hands were shaking. He knew. He didn't know it was her, but he knew something was wrong. That meant she needed to move faster. Before you find out what Kambili does next, I need you to do something for me. Hit that like button. Drop a comment telling me what you think Jin-ho's going to do when he finds out the truth. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This story is just getting started. Kambili met Min-jun that night at his office. Jin-ho called me, she said. Min-jun's eyebrows rose. And he knows someone's moving against him. He can't figure out who. What did you tell him? Nothing useful. But he's going to start investigating. We need to be careful. Or, Min-jun said slowly, we stop being careful. What do you mean? We've been moving quietly for 2 months. Building your position. You're stronger now than you were. Strong enough to go public. Public how? There's a real estate deal coming up next week. Prime commercial property in Itaewon. Jin-ho's been trying to acquire it for 6 months. The owner keeps refusing to sell. Let me guess. My father has a connection to the owner. Your father is the owner. Through a holding company. You inherited it. Kambili's mind raced. So I can sell it to whoever I want. Or keep it. Or sell it to Jin-ho's competitor. Or sell it to myself. Publicly. Let Jin-ho see my name on the paperwork. Min-jun smiled. Now you're thinking like your father. The deal went through on a Friday. Kambili made sure it was public record. Made sure the business press covered it. Made sure Jin-ho's name was mentioned as the failed bidder. And made sure her name was front and center as the acquiring party. By Monday, her phone was exploding. Calls from business contacts wanting to congratulate her. Calls from reporters wanting interviews. Calls from people she'd met once at networking events suddenly acting like old friends. And one call from a number she didn't recognize, but answered anyway. Miss Okafor? A woman's voice. Soft. Nervous. Yes. This is Oyuna. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I got your number from the business registry. Kambili's breath caught. Jin-ho's wife. The pregnant woman from the party. The last person Kambili expected to hear from. What can I do for you? Kambili asked carefully. I was hoping we could meet. Just for coffee. I know this is strange. I know you have no reason to want to see me. But please, I really need to talk to someone, and I don't know who else to ask. Every instinct said no. Said this was a trap. Said nothing good could come from meeting the woman who'd replaced her. But something in Yuna's voice caught her. Fear. Real fear. When Kambili asked. The coffee shop was in Bukshan. Traditional area, quiet, away from the business districts. Kambili arrived early. Picked a table in the back. Watched the door. Yuna walked in 10 minutes later. She was smaller than Kambili remembered. Prettier in person. And very, very pregnant now. She saw Kambili and walked over, moving carefully. Thank you for coming, Yuna said in Korean. Then, switching to English. Is English okay? My English is not great, but I want to make sure you're comfortable. Korean is fine, Kambili said. I speak it. Yuna's eyes widened. Oh, Jin-ho said you didn't really. Of course he did. They ordered tea. Sat in awkward silence until it arrived. Finally, Yuna spoke. I saw you. At the party. When Jin-ho introduced me. I remember. I didn't know about you. Not really. He told me he'd ended things with someone, but that it was casual. That you'd both moved on. Yuna's hands wrapped around her teacup. Then I saw your face that night. That wasn't casual. Kambili didn't know what to say. I'm not here to apologize for him. Yuna continued. That's not my place. I'm here because I'm scared. Of what? Of him. Of this marriage. Of what I've gotten myself into. Yuna's voice cracked. My father arranged this. I didn't have a choice. Jin-ho needed a proper Korean wife for appearance. My father needed the business connection. I'm just the transaction. Kambili felt something shift in her chest. Sympathy she didn't want to feel. Why are you telling me this? Because you got out. Because you're doing something on your own now. I saw the article about the property deal. Everyone's talking about it. About how no one knew who you really were. Yuna looked up. I want to know how you did it. How you became someone without him. The question hung in the air. Kambili could have said anything. Could have been cruel. Could have walked away. Instead, she told the truth. I found out who I was before I met him. I just didn't know it yet. Yuna's eyes filled with tears. I don't know who I am at all. They talked for 2 hours. Not about Jin-ho. Not about the past. About futures. About options. About what it meant to be trapped and how to find doors. When they finally left, Yuna hugged her. Quick, impulsive, desperate. Thank you, she whispered. Kambili watched her walk away, one hand on her belly, moving through Seoul like a ghost. She pulled out her phone. Texted Minjun. We need to add something to the plan. What? Protection for Yuna. When this all comes down, she's going to be caught in the middle. I won't let her get hurt. Minjun's response took a minute. You're more like your father than you know. He always protected the innocent ones too. Is that a yes? That's a yes. February brought the first real confrontation. Kambili was at a business dinner. Invitation-only event. The kind Jin-ho used to bring her to. Except now she had her own invitation. She walked in wearing navy blue, hair in a sleek bun, carrying herself like she owned the room. Because technically, she owned the building it was in. She was halfway through her first conversation when she felt eyes on her. She turned. Jin-ho was across the room, staring at her with an expression she couldn't read. He started walking toward her. Her stomach dropped. But she didn't run. Didn't hide. She stood there and waited. Kambili. Jin-ho. They stood 2 feet apart. Everyone around them was watching without looking like they were watching. You look well, he said. I am well. The Itaewon property. That was you. It was. How did you get the capital for that? She smiled. I have resources you didn't know about. Apparently. His jaw was tight. We need to talk. Privately. We really don't. Someone is targeting my business. My partnerships are falling apart. Loans are being called in. Contracts are dissolving. And everywhere I look, I keep seeing your name. Coincidence. Kambili. What do you want me to say, Jin-ho? That I'm secretly some criminal mastermind destroying your empire? Does that make you feel better than accepting that maybe your business just isn't as solid as you thought? His eyes flashed. You're different. I'm exactly who I always was. You just never paid attention. Someone approached them. A business contact wanting to talk to Kambili about a potential partnership. She turned to them with a warm smile. Of course. Excuse me, Jin-ho. She walked away, left him standing there. It felt better than she wanted to admit. That night, Minjun called. Jin-ho's people are investigating you. I know. He basically told me. They're looking into your background. Your family. Everything. Kambili's heart rate picked up. Will they find the connection to my father? Eventually. We've been careful, but if they dig deep enough, they'll find it. How long do we have? A month. Maybe less. Then we move to the final phase. You're sure? Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be completely exposed. Kambili thought about her father, about the empire he'd built and hidden, about the life he'd given up to protect her, about the life she'd given up trying to fit into Jin-ho's world. I'm sure, she said. Let's finish this. The next morning, Kambili called a meeting. Not with Min-jun. With lawyers, accountants, a publicist. If she was going to do this, she was going to do it right. I need to make an announcement, she told them. About my inheritance. About who my father was. I need it done properly, legally airtight, and I need it to happen in 2 weeks. The head lawyer blinked. 2 weeks is very fast for something this significant. I don't have more time than that. May I ask why the rush? Because the people who would try to stop me are already looking. If I wait, they'll find out on their terms. I'd rather control the narrative. The publicist, a sharp woman named Kim So-rae, leaned forward. This is going to be big news. The hidden heir of Han Doo-shik. You understand that? I do. There'll be questions. About your mother. About why you were hidden. About what you plan to do with the inheritance. I'm prepared. Are you? So-rae's eyes were kind, but serious. Because Seoul's media can be brutal. Especially to someone who doesn't fit their expectations. She meant because Kambili was black. Because she was foreign. Because she was a woman claiming power in a world that didn't think she belonged. I've been dealing with people's expectations my whole life, Kambili said quietly. I'm done trying to meet them. From now on, they'll meet mine. So-rae smiled. Okay then, let's make you unmissable. The announcement was scheduled for February 23rd. A press conference. Major media outlets. The whole production. Kambili spent 2 weeks preparing. Learning every detail of her father's empire. Practicing answers to questions she knew would come. Building a story that was true but strategic. Min-jun helped. They'll ask why you waited. Why you didn't claim this earlier. What do I say? The truth. You didn't know? Your father protected you by hiding you. Now that you know, you're honoring his legacy by stepping into the role he would have wanted for you. What if they ask about Jin-ho? Say it's a private matter. No comment. Don't give them that narrative. But everyone will connect the dots. Woman gets betrayed, suddenly claims massive inheritance. They'll think it's revenge. Let them think that. Revenge they understand. What you're actually doing, taking back what was stolen from you before you were even born, that's more complicated. They'll need time to understand it. 2 days before the press conference, Kambili got a visitor. Her apartment buzzer rang at 8 in the evening. She checked the camera. Jin-ho. She almost didn't let him up. But curiosity won. She opened the door when he knocked. He looked terrible. Exhausted. Stressed. Nothing like the confident man from the party 3 months ago. What do you want? She asked. To understand what's happening. You'll find out soon enough. Kambili, please. Whatever I did, whatever happened between us, this is bigger than that. My entire organization is collapsing. If you know something, if you're involved somehow, tell me. She looked at him. This man she'd loved. This man who'd humiliated her. You want honesty? She asked. Yes. You never saw me. For years, Jin-ho. For years I stood next to you. Learned your world. Met your people. Supported your work. And you never once saw me as anything but temporary. That's not true. You introduced me as your friend. For 4 years. Then you married someone else and announced it at a party I was standing in. You didn't even have the decency to tell me privately. His face flushed. That was complicated. My position required. I don't care what your position required. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine. Which is what? You'll see. At the press conference on the 23rd. What press conference? The one everyone's going to be talking about. She stepped back. Goodbye, Jin-ho. She closed the door. Heard him stand there for a moment. Then heard his footsteps walk away. She leaned against the door and breathed. 2 more days. 2 more days, and everything changed. The morning of February 23rd, Kambili woke up at 5. Couldn't sleep anyway. She showered, took her time with her hair. Decided on locks down, natural, exactly as they grew from her head. No compromise. Not today. She chose a black suit. Tailored perfectly. Her mother's necklace. Her father's ring, now worn openly. In the mirror, she saw both of them. Her mother's strength. Her father's eyes. She saw herself. Min-jun picked her up at 7. The press conference was scheduled for 9. Ready? He asked. No, she said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. The venue was a hotel conference room in Gangnam. Neutral territory. Professional. When they arrived, reporters were already setting up. Cameras. Lights. Microphones. So the publicist, met them at the door. We've got representatives from every major outlet. Business press, general news, even some international media. This is big, Kambili. I know. Your statement is 4 minutes. Then we'll take questions for 15 minutes. I'll cut it off after that. Don't let them bait you into saying something you'll regret. I won't. And if anyone gets inappropriate about your race or your mother, I'll handle it. So studied her face. You know what? I believe you will. At 8:45, Kambili stood backstage, listening to the room fill up. Voices. Speculation. Cameras clicking. Min Jun stood beside her. Your father would be proud, he said quietly. You think so? I know so. He built all this hoping you'd never need it. Hoping you'd have a safe, normal life. But if you had to step into it, he'd want you to do exactly what you're doing. Taking it on your terms. Kambili's throat was tight. I wish I'd known him. You do know him. Every strategy you've used, every move you've made, that's his daughter. He's in every part of this. At 9 exactly, So gave the signal. Kambili walked out. The camera flashes were immediate. Blinding. She walked to the podium, adjusted the microphone, and looked out at the crowd. Dozens of reporters. Cameras from every major network. Faces she recognized from television. And in the back, partially hidden, Jin-ho. He'd come. Of course he'd come. Their eyes met for half a second. Then Kambili began. Good morning. Thank you for coming. My name is Kambili Okafor Han. 3 months ago, most of you didn't know I existed. Today, I'm here to tell you who I am and what that means. She paused. Let the room settle. I am the daughter of Han Doo-shik. For those who don't know that name, he was a businessman who operated in Seoul from the 1980s until his death in 1998. He built a network of legitimate businesses across multiple industries. Real estate, import-export, technology investment, medical facilities. What made him unusual was how carefully he protected his privacy and his family. Someone's camera clicked rapidly. My mother, Chisholm Okafor, met my father in 1996. They had a relationship. I was born in 1997. Shortly after my birth, my father made the decision to send my mother and me away from Seoul. He did this because he had enemies. People who would have used us against him. He chose to protect us by erasing the connection. He gave us new documentation, new lives. He made sure we'd be safe even if something happened to him. Kambili's voice steadied. 2 years later, he died. My mother raised me between Nigeria and the United States. I grew up not knowing who my father really was. Not knowing what he'd built. Not knowing what he'd left behind. She looked directly at the cameras. I came to Seoul 5 years ago for graduate school. I stayed because I built a life here. I learned the language, the culture. I worked in finance. I thought I was building something new. I didn't know I was walking through a city my father had shaped, living in a world he'd created. The room was completely silent. 3 months ago, I learned the truth. I learned who my father was. I learned about the empire he'd built and hidden. I learned that all of it, every asset, every business, every carefully protected investment, he'd left to me. She pulled out a document, held it up. This is the legal verification. DNA records, financial statements, property deeds, all of it proving that I am Han Doo-shik's heir. All of it showing that for the last 3 months, I've been quietly taking control of what's legally mine. The reporters erupted. Questions shouted over each other. Kambili raised a hand. I'll take questions in a moment. Let me finish. They quieted. I'm not here to apologize for my father's business practices. I'm not here to defend or explain choices he made before I was born. I'm here to tell you what happens next. I'm restructuring everything. The legitimate businesses will remain legitimate and will expand. The less transparent operations will be dissolved or brought into legal compliance. I'm building partnerships with international markets, particularly in West Africa, that have been ignored for too long. I'm creating something new from what he left behind. She paused. I'm doing this as a black woman in Seoul. I'm doing this as someone who grew up between worlds. I'm doing this knowing that many people will doubt me, will question whether I belong here, will assume I'm in over my head. I've heard those doubts my entire time in this city. I'm used to them. But understand this clearly. I'm not asking for permission. I'm not waiting for approval. This is my inheritance. This is my right. And I'm taking it. The room exploded. Questions flew. Miss Okafor, what's the total value of your inheritance? Substantial. Exact numbers are in the press packet. Why reveal this now? Because hiding doesn't serve me anymore. What about the criminal allegations against your father's organization? My father was never convicted of anything. If you have evidence of criminal activity, present it. Otherwise, stop repeating rumors as facts. That got some sharp looks. Good. Miss Okafor, there are reports you were in a relationship with Jin-ho. Is this announcement connected to that? There it was. Kambili kept her face neutral. My personal life is private. This announcement is about my professional identity and my inheritance. Next question. But the timing is my choice. Next question. A woman in the front row stood. How do you respond to people who might say you don't belong in Korean business leadership? Kambili looked at her directly. I'd say I've spent my whole life not belonging in rooms I was standing in. I'm comfortable with it. The question isn't whether I belong. The question is whether the people who've been running things without accountability are ready for someone who sees them clearly. That answer would be on every news site by noon. She took 5 more questions. Then Soare stepped in. That's all we have time for. Thank you. Kambili stepped away from the podium. The noise behind her was deafening. She walked backstage, legs shaking, heart racing. Minjun was waiting. You were perfect, he said. I was terrified. No one could tell. Soare rushed over. That was incredible. The line about seeing them clearly is already trending online. Is that good? It's very good. You've got the narrative. Now we just have to maintain it. Kambili sat down. Let herself breathe. It was done. Seoul knew who she was now. No more hiding. The fallout was immediate. By noon, Kambili's name was everywhere. News sites, social media, business networks. The reactions were mixed. Some people were fascinated. The hidden heir story was compelling. Some were skeptical, demanding more proof, questioning the legitimacy. Some were openly racist, saying terrible things about her mother, about her, about whether she could possibly be qualified. Kambili had expected that. Still hurt to read it. But the business world, the part that mattered, was taking her seriously. By afternoon, she had 15 meeting requests from companies wanting to partner, 10 from reporters wanting deeper interviews, 5 from lawyers representing people who suddenly wanted to renegotiate old contracts, and 1 from Jin-ho. She deleted it. That evening, Yuna called. I saw the press conference, she said. And you were amazing. I didn't know about your father, about everything you've been carrying. Jin-ho didn't either. Is he angry? He's confused. And scared, I think. He's been on the phone all day trying to figure out how this affects him. It affects him a lot. Silence. Kambili, I need to tell you something. I'm leaving him. Kambili sat up. What? I can't do this anymore. This marriage, this life, pretending everything's fine when it's not. I'm taking the baby, and I'm leaving. My mother has family in Busan. We're going there. Does Jin-ho know? Not yet. I'm telling him tomorrow. But I wanted you to know first because you showed me it was possible. To choose yourself even when it's scary. Kambili's eyes burned. Yuna, are you safe? Do you need help? I have help. My mother's arranged everything. But thank you. For asking. For caring even though you had no reason to. You didn't do anything wrong. You were used just like I was. Maybe. But I'm not staying used. They talked for another 20 minutes. When they hung up, Kambili felt something unexpected. Hope. Not just for herself. For Yuna too. For women who found ways out. The next week was chaos. Meetings. Interviews. Legal filings. Contract negotiations. Kambili barely slept. But piece by piece, she was building something real. The advisory board for her father's restructured holdings. International partnerships with Nigerian and Ghanaian firms. Investment in technology startups run by immigrants in Seoul who'd never gotten traditional funding. She was making noise. Making waves. Making sure everyone knew she wasn't going anywhere. On March 2nd, Minjun called her into his office. It's time, he said. Time for what? The final move. The one we've been building toward. He laid out papers on his desk. Jin-ho's organization is technically built on loans your father made to his predecessor. Those loans were never fully repaid. The debt transferred when Jin-ho took over. He's been operating on borrowed foundation for years. And we own that debt. We do. We've owned it the whole time. Now we call it in. Kambili stared at the numbers. This will destroy him. Not destroy. Restructure. He can't pay this in cash. But he can pay it in control. In stepping down. In letting someone else run things. Someone else meaning me. Meaning you. Kambili sat with that. This was it. The final play. The move that would take everything Jin-ho thought he'd built and put it in her hands. When? She asked. There's a board meeting in 4 days. All the senior figures. We arrange for you to be there. You present the debt. You give them the choice. Which isn't really a choice. No, it's not. Kambili thought about Jin-ho. About the party. About 4 years of being invisible. Set it up, she said. The meeting was scheduled for March 6th. Kambili prepared like she was going to war. She studied every person who'd be in that room. Every business they ran. Every vulnerability they had. Every reason they'd have to side with her or against her. Min-jun coached her on the presentation. You walk in like you already own the room. Because you do. Don't ask permission. Don't apologize. State facts and let them draw conclusions. What if they refuse? They won't. We've made sure of that. But if they try, you have leverage on every single person there. Use it. The night before the meeting, Kambili couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about her father. About what he'd want her to do. About whether taking this empire made her like the people who'd killed him. Or whether it made her the protector of what he'd built. At 3 in the morning, she called her mother. Kambili? What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. I needed to hear your voice. I saw the press conference. The whole thing. Baby, I'm so proud of you. Are you angry? That I'm doing this. That I'm stepping into his world. Her mother was quiet for a moment. I was angry when Min-jun first told you. Angry that you couldn't just have a normal life. But then I watched you these last few weeks. The way you carry yourself. The way you're building something better than what was there before. That's not his world anymore, Kambili. That's yours. You're making it yours. I'm scared. Good. Fear means you understand the weight of it. Just don't let it stop you. I won't. I know you won't. You're my daughter. You don't stop for anything. They talked until sunrise. When Kambili finally hung up, she felt steady. Ready. March 6th arrived. The meeting was at a private building in Gangnam. Neutral location. Serious atmosphere. Kambili arrived with Min-jun at exactly 9. The room was on the 3rd floor. Heavy doors. Dark wood. The kind of space where important decisions happened quietly. Min-jun opened the door. 12 men looked up. Their faces ranged from confused to hostile. Jin-ho was at the far end of the table. He went pale when he saw her. What is this? One of the older men demanded. Min-jun, why is she here? Because this is her meeting, Min-jun said calmly. He pulled out a chair at the head of the table. The empty chair no one had sat in for 20 years. Kambili sat down. The room went silent. Gentlemen, she said in Korean, her voice carrying perfectly. Let's talk about the future of this organization. My organization. That's when Kim Sang-woo, the man who'd questioned her authority, leaned forward with his red face and challenged her. And that's when Kambili slid the folders across the table and watched their world shift. The meeting lasted 3 hours. At first, they tried to argue, tried to claim the debts were invalid, tried to suggest she didn't understand what she was dealing with. Kambili let them talk. Then she systematically destroyed every argument. She knew their businesses better than they did. She had documentation they'd forgotten existed. She had leverage they didn't know she'd collected. One by one, they realized the truth. She'd already won. This meeting was just formality. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. Restructuring approved. New leadership accepted. Kambili Okafor Han recognized as primary authority. When it was over, the men filed out quietly. All except Jin-ho. He stayed in his seat, staring at the table. Kambili gathered her papers. Prepared to leave. Wait, Jin-ho said. She paused. I didn't know, he said. Who you were. What you carried. I didn't know. No, Kambili said. You didn't. I'm not sure I deserved you. You didn't. Simple. Honest. Not cruel, just true. But that's not why I'm here. I'm not here because of what you did to me. I'm here because this was always mine. You just didn't know it. She walked to the door. Kambili. She turned back. Jin-ho's face was broken. Lost. What happens to me now? That's up to you. You can stay on in a reduced capacity if you operate within the new structure. Or you can leave. But you don't run things anymore. That's not negotiable. And if I fight this, you'll lose. I made sure of that months ago. She left him sitting there. In the hallway, Min-jun was waiting. How do you feel? He asked. Kambili thought about it. Powerful, she said. and sad, and free, all at once. That sounds right. They walked out of the building into Seoul's afternoon light. Somewhere in this city, her father had walked these streets, built this empire, made choices that led to her standing here today. She'd never know him, but she'd honor him by doing it better. 3 weeks later, Kambili stood in her new office. Not Minjun's old space. Somewhere bigger, modern, with a view of the Han River. Her name was on the door. Her father's picture was on the desk. She'd spent the weeks since the meeting restructuring everything, installing new leadership, dissolving the operations that couldn't be legitimized, building partnerships that actually helped people instead of exploiting them. It was exhausting. It was exhilarating. Her phone buzzed. A message from Yuna. Had the baby. A girl. We're safe and happy in Busan. Thank you for everything. Kambili smiled. Another message came in. This one from Seoul. Forbes wants to interview you for their Asia edition. Thoughts? Set it up. Another. From her mother. Your father would be so proud. I'm proud. Come visit when you can. I miss you. I miss you too. Soon. Kambili set down her phone and looked out at the city. Seoul had never felt like home before. Maybe it could now. A knock on her door. Come in. Minjun entered carrying a file. New situation. Competitor trying to move into the Gangnam market. They don't know it's your territory yet. Do they know who I am? Everyone knows who you are now. That was true. In 3 months, she'd gone from invisible to unavoidable. What do you recommend? She asked. Meeting. Let them make their pitch. Then let them know whose territory they're walking into. Kambili smiled. Set it up. Minjun turned to leave, then paused. You know, your father used to sit exactly like that. Same posture, same expression when he was thinking through a problem. Yeah. He'd be glad it's you in that chair. No one else could have done what you did. After he left, Kambili sat quietly. Thought about the girl she'd been 6 months ago. The one who'd walked out of that party broken and lost. That girl was gone. This woman had taken her place. Someone who knew her worth, knew her power, knew exactly who she was and what she was capable of. The empire she'd taken wasn't the one her father had built. It was better, because she'd built it herself. Before we wrap up, I need you to do one last thing. If this story moved you, if you felt every emotion Kambili felt, if you're sitting there thinking about your own power and what you're capable of, hit that subscribe button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And drop a comment telling me what part hit you hardest. Because stories like this, about women who take back what's theirs, these are the stories we need. And I've got more coming. 6 months after the press conference, Kambili was invited to speak at Seoul National University. The business school wanted her to talk to students about entrepreneurship and inheritance. She almost said no, but then she thought about the young women in that audience. The ones who felt like outsiders. The ones who were told they didn't belong. She said yes. The auditorium was packed. Kambili walked onto the stage in a deep blue suit, her locks in a high ponytail, her father's ring visible on her hand. The applause was immediate. She waited for it to settle. Then she began. 6 months ago, I was someone most of you had never heard of. Today, I'm someone you're required to study in business classes. That shift happened because I stopped waiting for permission to claim what was mine. She looked out at the faces. Young, eager, some skeptical. I'm not going to tell you success is easy. I'm not going to say hard work is all you need. Because I worked hard for 4 years in a relationship where I was never going to be enough. Hard work didn't save that. What saved me was knowing my value even when no one else did. Someone in the front row was taking notes. Some of you are looking at me thinking I got lucky. I inherited an empire. But inheritance isn't luck. It's responsibility. My father built something and died protecting it. I had to prove I was worthy of it. I had to learn an entire world in 3 months. I had to outthink people who'd been in this business for decades. I had to do all of that while being dismissed because of my race, my gender, my accent. And I did it anyway. She paused. That's not a story about luck. That's a story about refusing to be small. About taking up space even when people tell you that space isn't for you. About building power instead of waiting for it to be given. The room was completely silent. So here's what I want you to take from this. Know who you are. Know what you're worth. And when someone tries to make you feel like you don't belong, remember that belonging isn't given. It's claimed. You walk into rooms and you decide you belong there. And then you prove it. The applause when she finished was thunderous. Afterward, students lined up to talk to her. One young woman, visibly nervous, approached. Miss Okafor, I'm Sarah. I'm Nigerian too. I came here for school, and everyone keeps telling me I should go back home for business opportunities. That I'll never really succeed here. Kambili looked at her. Saw herself 4 years ago. Do you want to be here? She asked. Yes. Then stay. Build something they can't ignore. Make them learn your name. Make them understand that you're not asking for a seat at their table. You're building your own table and deciding who gets to sit at it. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just do it. Then come back in 5 years and tell me about your empire. Driving home that night, Kambili felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the absence of struggle. The presence of purpose. She knew who she was now. Han Doo-shik's daughter. Chisholm Okafor's daughter. And most importantly, herself. A woman who'd been underestimated, dismissed, and betrayed. Who'd turned all of that into power. Who'd taken an empire not through revenge, but through reclamation. The city lights spread out below her as the car wound through Seoul's streets. This city that had never quite felt like home. This city where she'd been invisible for so long. This city she now owned. Not all of it, but enough. Enough to matter. Enough to change things. Enough to make sure the next woman who walked into a room full of people who didn't think she belonged would have one person who knew exactly how that felt, and who'd done something about it. Kambili smiled. Let them keep underestimating women like her. It only made the victory sweeter. She pulled out her phone. Sent a message to Min-jun. What's next? His response came quickly. Expansion into Southeast Asian markets. There's an opportunity in Singapore. Interested? Kambili didn't hesitate. Very interested. Let's build something new. She put her phone away and looked out at Seoul's skyline. Her father had built an empire in secret. She was going to build one in the light. And no one, not Jin-ho, not the old guard, not anyone who'd ever dismissed her, was going to stop it. Because she hadn't taken revenge. She'd taken everything. And she was just getting started.